First off, a big thank you to our channel members, Victor Matusik, Adiana Jones, and River Choi. Hello everyone, and welcome to day 2 of One Piece Week. I'm already cutting it close by releasing day 1's episode 30 minutes before day 2, but I guess sometimes you just gotta live life on the edge. That video is actually doing way better than I thought it would, by the way, so if you enjoyed this video and or the rest of One Piece Week, please do feel free to leave a like and subscribe. But enough shelling, let's waste no further time and get right into today's topic. Will Zoro create a devil fruit? It's hero time. Since finally meeting Dr. Vegapunk on Egghead Island, we One Piece fans got answers to a lot of the questions that have been plaguing us for a majority of the story's total length. Amongst those answers, one that I found particularly interesting was the theory that Dr. Vegapunk proposed for the origin of devil fruits. According to Vegapunk, the origin of devil fruits might be that each of them are willed into existence as a result of human desire, specifically the desire for human evolution. In a world where a person's sheer force of will is able to knock others into unconsciousness, I personally wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if it was revealed that a person's will for human advancement was what resulted in the creation of these seemingly magical fruits. This would also create a very interesting narrative parallel where human evolution is reflected not only through their advancement of technology, but also their own physical genetic advancement as well. In the world of One Piece, there exists a thing known as the lineage factor, which is known to be the blueprint of all life within the One Piece world. And we know that at least when it comes to genetic relatives and genetic clones, the lineage factor does transfer things such as personality traits and even abilities from one individual to another. With this understanding over the lineage factor, Dr. Vegapunk was even able to near perfectly replicate Kaido's devil fruit, albeit with a pink dragon instead of a blue one, which he deemed a failure. If the lineage factor can be used in order to recreate devil fruits, who isn't to say that it is also what creates devil fruits in the first place? To explain this idea, let's paint a hypothetical scenario. A man spends his entire life obsessing over trying to improve his marksmanship skills, and he eventually trains so hard that he manages to become a nearly perfect shot every time as a result of his training. When this man dies, his lineage factor retains the information of his body and mind, as we know it is able to do with characters such as Boa Hancock and S. Snake. As the man's body continues to decay and plant matter begins to sprout from his body, a tree begins to grow. In order to survive, trees require nutrients from the surrounding soil. But in this specific case, the sprouting tree is also able to take nutrients from the body of the dead man. And not only does it absorb the nutrients from the body, but it also absorbs the lineage factor within the marksman's DNA. As a result, once this tree reaches maturity and bears a fruit, this fruit is encoded with the information of the man's lineage factor. When someone comes along and eats the fruit from this tree, all of a sudden they gain the power to shoot bullets out of every pore of their body, and that is how a devil fruit is created in the first place. Of course, this theory does have holes in it, such as why was someone so obsessed with being a skin suit that the jacket fruit was created? Or why does the sea become so hateful towards those who wield the power of the devil fruits? But that isn't really what we're here to discuss today. What we are here to discuss is, with the knowledge that devil fruits may or may not be born from the strong wills and desires of humanity, will the pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro, end up creating a devil fruit of his own by the series' end? Firstly, let's look at this concept from a thematic standpoint. In the recently concluded Wano arc, Zoro announced his intention to become the King of Hell. So the idea of him achieving his goal of becoming the King of Hell and then later on creating a fruit literally named after the devil is already a fun little piece of foreshadowing for the story, even if it is a little on the nose. On top of that, the fact that Zoro awakened to his conqueror's haki in this scene certainly fits into the idea that if strong willpowers are what created devil fruits, then Zoro more than likely possesses enough of a desire for his goal to create a devil fruit out of it. Not to mention that he literally survived an encounter with the actual Grim Reaper, which could perhaps be an explanation for why the sea hates devil fruit users as well. There are naturally twisted lives that still continue to live on even after they've died, albeit in the form of a devil fruit and its associated powers, rather than as some kind of zombie person. Perhaps the lineage factor, in a way, sort of allows a person to live on by becoming a devil fruit. And seeing as the sea in the One Piece world is supposedly the very avatar of all life and creation itself, then I can see why it would be enraged at the idea of its total opposite, death, simply being a means for some people to reach even greater levels of evolution that nature itself didn't originally intend for. Back to Zoro though, a big question that we need to address is, if Zoro did either become or create a devil fruit, be it before or after his death, depending on how the process actually works, what powers would the fruit even actually possess? For this, we need to look no further than Zoro's swordsmanship skill itself, as well as Luffy's devil fruit, the human fruit model Sun God Nika. In the Enies Lobby arc, we got introduced to what is pretty inarguably Zoro's most bizarre ability, that being his Asura state, wherein he seemingly grows an extra pair of heads and 4 additional arms, along with 6 extra swords, putting him at a total of 9 swords at his disposal. To quickly take a look at the meaning of the number 9, It is often used to represent the completion or fulfillment of a cycle in preparation for the next cycle to begin. To compare this to the idea of devil fruit reincarnation and the idea of Zoro's death becoming the catalyst for a creation of a devil fruit, I think an interesting case could be made for this being another tidbit of Oda foreshadowing events in the manga. In addition, there are of course the 9 circles of hell popularized by Dante's Inferno, and we all know that Zoro and hell tend to be in the same room at the same time. On that note, there are 2 ways that you can possibly explain the Asura state. The first way is that the Asura state is an actual form that Zoro can take, literally manifesting extra heads and extra limbs and extra swords and all that goodness. The skill refined through his training as a swordman is so great that he literally gained the power to sprout extra body parts and weapons to fight with. Alternatively, and the theory that I've always personally stuck with, is that this is a visual representation made to display Zoro's heightened level of awareness and strength without just straight up telling the reader that that's what's going on. Similar to how the sword techniques in Demon Slayer use visual representations in order to make the attack seem more flashy and in order to better get the idea across of the moves to the reader, instead of actually being a load of swordsmen shooting out lightning and water and fire all over the place. For a long time, I've been a very firm believer that Haki is invisible, like we first saw with Rayleigh, but the reason that we continue to see it throughout the story with visual representations is just to make it less confusing for us readers to follow along with. In the canon, Haki can be perceived as if it were a real thing, but for us readers who can't perceive it, just making it something visible and tangible just makes more sense. Following that logic, it could perhaps be that Zoro's dormant armament and observation Haki are manifested within the Asura state, and this unique physical appearance only exists in order to represent the fact that his senses have increased and his attacks have become more potent. The reason why characters react as if it were a real, actual physical transformation is because they're able to perceive the fact that Zoro's skills have suddenly become sharper. And again, this is portrayed to us as the audience through a physical change because it's easier for us to understand something represented that way. Continuing with this discussion on visual representations, it's always been unclear to me if Luffy's Red Hawk attack does actually create fire, or if it's just another visual representation to show that he carries the will of his brother, Ace. A theory that I've seen floating around regarding this is that it's a result of elastic potential and friction, which I suppose could work, and another more recent theory proposed that he was able to do it because he has the fruit of the literal sun god. But if we want to believe the idea that when Zoro enters the Asura state, he does actually grow all these extra body parts, then perhaps something similar can be said for Luffy's Red Hawk. Perhaps the intense willpower of these 2 individuals has forced their lineage factors to evolve to a new stage. In Zoro's case, this resulted in the power to enter an enhanced state of both physical and mental being that makes his skills even more devastating than they already were, and in Luffy's case, this resulted in the power to generate fire from his own body. Perhaps both of these powers will end up becoming devil fruits of their own at some point, as a result of the willpower of these 2 characters. But for now, going back to the question of what would Zoro's devil fruit actually be, let's take a bit of a closer look at Luffy's devil fruit to get an idea. We know for a fact, thanks to Who's Who, that the sun god Nika is an idol created by slaves and prisoners in order to fill their hearts with hope that they would one day be freed from their captivity. The sheer amount of hope, will, and belief that was born from this legend ended up creating an actual sun god Nika, that being in the form of the human fruit model Nika. If a devil fruit that can grant someone the powers of a god can be willed into existence just by enough people believing in that god in the first place, then who is to say that the same couldn't be done a second time? What if Zoro is single-handedly willing a wholly new devil fruit into existence through his sheer force of will? Another devil fruit that carries the power of a god within it. Specifically, what if what we see here is not actually some kind of visual representation, but rather the physical manifestation of the power that will one day reincarnate as none other than the human fruit model Asura?